Spooky season is far behind us. It's like a whopping half a year away, and the spring season is upon us. What better way to get in the spring spirit than discussing some horrifying scenes in non-horror movies? Today I'm going to be taking a look at some absolute banger scenes from movies that aren't horror movies that just may forget to make you breathe. Suppose I should probably warn you about that. And the last scene I'm going to take a look at is literally the scariest scene in any movie I have ever seen, most horror movies included. So go ahead and grab a snack and sit down as we go over the most horrifying scenes in non-horror movies. Now, you might contest that Annihilation was in fact a horror movie, to which I say, crap. 21 Bridges is a movie where Chadwick Boseman plays an NYPD detective that happens to be in charge of an investigation where two armed perpetrators killed quite a few cops, and now there's a citywide manhunt for them. This is mostly a thriller movie. Go away. And it shows in most of the movie. But the scene I specifically want to point out from this movie, it happens about 10 minutes into the movie, and it is when crap hits the fan on the job. Literally, the entire movie just becomes a chase of these two guys. It is the detectives and the NYPD chasing these two guys that killed a lot of cops when things went wrong at this job. Michael and Ray are the name of the two armed perpetrators, and they kill 8 cops over the course of the scene. And it's all to move some drugs. Now, I'm not going to show much of this scene, because I personally like staying monetized, and this one would probably be a little bit difficult to stay monetized during, but the entire scene is shot, in my opinion at least, like a horror film. The fact that they use tight angles on Michael's face and show that he is very clearly extremely uncomfortable with what Ray is doing, because I believe over the course of the scene, Michael doesn't actually kill any cops. It is exclusively Ray that's doing that. The fact that lots of close shots and not necessarily showing what's happening makes this less of an action scene, in my opinion, and more of a horror scene, because horror is not necessarily in the scene, it's more, at least in my opinion, when done well, in the unseen. Drive. This is definitely a heavy movie that I wouldn't recommend if you don't like thrillers, but if you are looking for a good action thriller, I would highly, highly recommend this 2019 movie. Civil War is kind of a whack movie on the first viewing. There's a lot that won't make sense. The ending won't make sense to you. Character choices won't make sense to you, and that's okay. I feel like that's kind of Alex Garland's choice with the film, is that you may not necessarily understand it on a first viewing, or you may not understand it without realizing that it is a film literally trying to go with the journalistic perspective. It's a film not interested in taking sides or doing a bunch of world building. It is literally a film to show journalists in their element. Now, there's for sure several scenes from this movie that I could have taken for this video, but I want to talk about one specific one. Yes, cue Jesse Plemons in the red sunglasses.
Those 2 guys over there, they're my colleagues.
What kind of colleagues?
From the very first time we see his character, he and his compatriots are dumping a massive amount of bodies into a grave. They've also basically kidnapped two characters that we have, okay, one of them that we have a decent amount of attachment to, and one that we don't really know, but that we know a character that we are currently focused on does have attachment to. So it frankly looks like they are fixing to immediately kill them. Already, we know this guy, Jesse Plemons' character, who is never actually named in the movie, is relatively unstable, but let's hear him out. Maybe they have demands.
This guy's your colleague? This guy here?
Yes, sir. He's my...
That guy?
Okay, hear me out. I don't think he's friendly. This is a pretty freaky scene between the complete lack of any background music, how far away the camera feels from the characters, the panicked breathing, and the fact that Jesse Plemons' character has proven he's perfectly fine with killing any of them, with almost no regard. That all combined makes for this to be, in my opinion, the scariest scene from the movie, and a great horror scene from a non-horror movie. Finally, I have literally wanted to talk about this scene this entire recording. I am, of course, talking about the victory speech in Oppenheimer. Now, there are 3 scenes in this movie that, in my opinion, won this film Best Picture of 2023. And that is the Trinity bomb test, the about 15 final minutes of the film, and this scene that I'm fixing to talk about, which is Oppenheimer's victory speech. Firstly, the stomping of feet really sets the tone for this whole scene. Already throughout the movie, we've established that the stomping feet leads to Oppenheimer directly feeling anxiety, and in this moment, we see where that anxiety is coming from, because he is basically having to lie through his teeth and completely push his feelings down because he's being told to. The complete silence once he actually takes the stage also makes the scene very, very tense. Once he starts talking, you kind of start to see the background shaking behind him. This eerie rumbling comes in, and you just get the feeling that everything is off. And then the fact when the room just erupts in applause that you don't actually hear all the applause, you just hear people standing up, chilling. And then, of course, you get to where the hallucinations start. When he actually sees the potential effects of the bomb, when he sees what he's created, when he has a vision of what his invention, okay, everybody at the Manhattan Project, but directly, or indirectly, sorry, his invention, it just really, really is the most pivotal scene in the entire movie, in my opinion. If you want the themes of the movie wrapped up into a single scene, it is by far and away that scene. And the fact that this scene sticking ends on a jump scare too just adds to the fact that this is a horror scene in a non-horror movie. So with those non-horror movie scenes of horror, I hope you can go into your day a little bit happier. Or a little bit sadder. Let's get real here. Leave a comment if you have a horror scene in a non-horror movie down below, and I'll maybe make a part 2 going over some comments. Thank you all so much for watching, and right before I go, if any of these scenes have you feeling a little existential or overly worried about the future potentially, then read the book of James in the Bible. I highly recommend it. It's my favorite book in the Bible, and it just personally gives me a whole lot of peace. Thank y'all for watching. I'll see y'all later.